Welcome to episode 7 of the Rants of a Red Devil podcast. When I was sitting down throughout the week, as I do, to look at the stories that are breaking regarding United, football in general, to find sort of topics to discuss on the podcast, there wasn't that much, if I'm honest, so I thought we're probably going to have to do something a little bit different this week. And then sort of in the last 24 to 48 hours it's gone a bit crazy, and there's plenty to talk about. So we'll start with the story from today. The waking up to Twitter this morning, Curtis Woodhouse has claimed that Ryan Giggs, who spent 22 years, probably more, 22 plus years, at the height of the Premier League, playing for the biggest club in the country, scoring consistently in each season, arguably the best midfielder player even to play in the Premier League based on his longevity, playing till he's 40. Like, it's incredible. Going from a flying left winger to reinvent himself as a holding mid or sitting quarterback style midfielder. Let's call a spade. He's one of the best players in Premier League history. Full stop, end of discussion. Doesn't go any further. Unless obviously Curtis Woodhouse, when he's claimed that Giggs was average at best. Right. Don't quite know where to start with this one. Curtis Woodhouse, I'll be honest, I'd not heard of him before this morning, before I logged onto Twitter this morning. So I got on his Wikipedia page. The height of his career was probably where he started at Sheffield United. Played for Birmingham, Hull, then dropped down the lower leagues, Harrogate, etc, etc. I mean, he couldn't cut it as a footballer and ended up being a boxer. And this guy says Ryan Giggs is bang average. Please, mate, come on. We all want headlines. Like, I'd love a headline. We all want headlines, but there's ways to get them, pal. There's ways to get them. Ryan Giggs is bang average. Are you having a laugh, mate? Do we go further with this story or not? Or do we just leave it there and say Curtis Woodhouse probably smoking something at the time of making the comments? Who knows? Clearly, I don't agree. Clearly, I don't think many people agree with what Curtis Woodhouse has had to say. That Ryan Giggs was a bang average footballer. But he just wasn't, mate. End of. We'll leave it there. The other story that has sort of come to the fore in the last few days, as I was thinking what we're going to discuss on the episode, is Solskjaer's interview with United We Stand, where he said, as I said last week, we don't really use expletives or other profanities on the show, but Solskjaer said he'd rather have holes than a-holes in his squad. I think he's proved that. We can say a lot about Ollie, and people say a lot about Ollie. He's just a yes man. He's the Glazers' puppet. You know, the usual stories that get fired at Ollie constantly. But I think there he shows his ruthless side, I guess. He shows that he's willing to make decisions for the benefit of the team and not necessarily himself, which has been the criticism that's been levelled at some people. They make decisions, Mourinho being one, they make decisions to better themselves rather than for the benefit of the club, whereas Ollie seems to be doing the polar opposite, and still gets stick for it somehow. So I mean, looking at Ollie, he's obviously shown that he's got a ruthless side. He's shown that on numerous occasions. Getting rid of Romelu Lukaku. Romelu was scoring goals, still scoring goals at United when he left. I mean, he's scoring goals at Inter now. He was constantly scoring at United. He played a key part in that comeback against PSG in the Champions League. And Ollie still got rid of him because he didn't fit the system. He didn't fit the style of play. And he probably didn't want to be there on the basis that he was going to be playing backup. And Ollie let a £75 million striker go. Didn't really replace him because the right person, the right player wasn't out there. And that's fine. That shows that Ollie's not just making snap judgments and picking up any old player. He's thinking about what works for the team. He's thinking about what's best for the team. If that leaves him short, then that leaves him short. He doesn't want to bring the wrong personality in, which is what he said in his interview with United We Stand. I mean, we can all look at Romelu Lukaku scoring goals at Inter and go, oh, like many fans did at the start of the season, oh, but we shouldn't have sold Lukaku. But he didn't fit Ollie's system, so why keep him? I mean, yeah, he's scoring goals, but he's still got... When you put the ball into him, he still looks like he's wearing a pair of work boots. Like, he can't control a ball. So he doesn't fit the system we want to play, and Ollie's shown that he's willing to get rid of players that don't fit that system. Alexis Sanchez being another one. He's on astronomical wages, and I mean, he's probably Alexis Sanchez. He's, for Man United as a whole, for me, what Fellaini was for Moyes. Everybody points to Fellaini as being the sort of failure point at Moyes. We're linked with all of these players, and then we let Fellaini's release clause elapse and pay over the odds for Fellaini. That was always the thing pointed at David Moyes. That was always the thing that fans were quick to jump on with David Moyes, and to an extent, rightly so. For me, Alexis Sanchez is that thing that shows how far United fell from grace. It wasn't a case of we'll bring him in on our terms. It was a case of we'll bring him in and pay him $400,000 a week because that's the only way we can get him here. So Solskjaer was quick to dispatch him. Again, didn't replace him, but his personality didn't fit that of the squad. I know Solskjaer's talked about him coming back next season and proving everybody wrong, but I personally don't see that being the case. I think it's a difficult one. We can't get rid of him because of his astronomical wages. But back to the point is that Ollie shows that he can be ruthless. He sacked, I can't remember the guy, Emiliano Alvarez, I think his name, the goalkeeping coach that worked with David De Gea. He sacked him after the pre-season because he was caught in a hotel bar at silly o'clock, 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. His head clearly wasn't in it. And he was swiftly dispatched. That's the ruthless side that it takes to succeed as a football manager, and that's the side that people say Ollie hasn't got. Oh, he's too nice. No, he does what's best for the club, and that is why for me he's doing a good job. He should be given the time to rebuild, and stamp his own ideas onto the team. He's got that ruthless side, and that came out in that interview with United We Stand. Other than those two pieces of story breaking or being portrayed in the media, there's nothing really regarding United. I guess we've got to touch on it again as we did a whole podcast on it last week. The Project Restart. It's not off to the best of starts. Mariappa and I believe it was coach at Watford tested positive in the first round of testing. Assistant manager at Burnley, I can't think of his name, but he also tested positive in the first round of testing. All in all, there were 6 players or members of staff from 3 different clubs that tested positive during the first round of testing. The United did release a statement and say that none of our players or staff had tested positive, which is good news. But 3 clubs, 6 members of personnel from 3 clubs, it's not the best start. During the second round of testing, we've got A Bournemouth player, I believe, has tested positive. Don't know which player, but a Bournemouth player has tested positive. So yeah, the Project Restart isn't off to the best of starts, to be honest. Whether it still goes ahead at the start of June, we'll have to wait and see. All clubs seem to be back in training. Various members of some clubs haven't returned, so Troy Deeney's not gone back. I don't think I think Kante's been given permission to not train over fears for safety. I think Willian is one that's in the same position as well at Chelsea. So there's been a couple that haven't gone back. But as far as I'm aware, all of United's squad have returned, and none of United's squad have tested positive, or any member of staff. So that is pretty much all the news that has broke. So what I was going to do originally before these stories broke for this episode is, with it being episode 7, pretty iconic number at United. So we're going to have a quick look at the legends that wore that shirt, and we'll start with the ones that wore it that probably won't go down as club legends. So for me, the first one, obviously a disappointment to the number 7. It's been Alexis Sanchez. So we touched on him a little bit earlier. Source was quick to move him on because he didn't fit the bill. For me, he's United's worst ever signing in the Premier League era. Certainly in my lifetime. We can all point at Bebe and we can point at William Prunier for being worse. And that's fine, they were worse players. I'm not saying that Alexis Sanchez is a bad player. I'm saying he's the worst signing. With Alexis Sanchez, what we expected him to do with Van Persie. I certainly did. I expected him to be a catalyst to drive the team forward, especially for the astronomical sums of money he was on. But he's just not done that at all. He's disappointed. And for the numbers involved, and for the expectation that came with that transfer, that's why for me he's the worst United signing. And also goes down as the worst number 7. Memphis Depay. Again, one that isn't going to go down as a club legend. I know some fans want him back. He's playing pretty well at Lyon in the Farmers League, but he did nothing at United. He had one good game. He had one good game in the Champions League qualifier against Club Brugge, and that was pretty much all he ever did in the United shirt. So again, won't go down as a club legend. Michael Owen. He's a bit of a funny one because he probably will go down as a club legend purely for that fourth goal in the 4-3 win against City. But other than that, he didn't really do a lot at United. He was pretty poor. Probably coming to the back end of his career. Luckily, we didn't pay him a lot of money. But yeah, won't really go down. Well, he probably will for that fourth goal in the 4-3, but shouldn't really go down as a club legend. Antonio Valencia, for as good as he was in a number 25 shirt at United, his one season in the number 7 shirt was probably the worst season he had. So yeah, he didn't do too well in that shirt. But there are some that have done pretty well. Brian Robson. So when I first started watching football, Robbo was key to the United side. Captain Marvel, carried the team. Fantastic footballer, absolute leader. He's a club legend. One that's before my time, but we've all seen the videos and we all know what a player he was with Georgie Best. Again, what a talent. Very similar in his playing style from watching old footage to Messi. Just moves the ball, dribbling, quite happy to take people on, ride challenges, score goals. Fantastic player, rightly a club legend. Despite his off-field problems, absolute diamond of a player. Eric Cantona, the king. Actually recording this on Eric Cantona's birthday. Again, probably one of the best signings in Premier League history. Picked him up for £1 million from Leeds, and he was the talisman that drove United forward, gelled everything together, and really propelled the team onto better things. can't think of words for how good Eric Cantona was. One of the best number 7s ever at United. Absolutely fantastic footballer. Again, had off-field issues. Disciplinary problems on the field, shall we say, he had. But for everything like that Cantona brought, he brought quality and class with him as well. Again, an absolute legend of a number 7. His shirt was taken over by David Beckham. And I read a piece with Roy Keane that said Sir Alex didn't want Beckham to have that number 7 shirt, didn't want Beckham to have that iconic number because he thought it'd go to his head, wanted Keane to have it. Keane turned it down, and I think Beckham did justice to that shirt. His delivery into the box was phenomenal. His work rate and ethic was never to be questioned. Set pieces, best set piece taker in Premier League history. End of. Absolutely fantastic player. Was gutted when he left. Again, another player that's a real legend of that number 7 shirt. Then we've got the one that took over from him, Cristiano. Speaks for itself, doesn't he? Scored goals, was a real talisman in the team, one of the best players on the planet, and was so at United. So before he even went to Real Madrid and Juventus, he was already one of the best players on the planet, playing for United. My own views of Ronaldo aside, because I can't quite forgive him for walking off in that game against Sunderland, but that aside, absolute quality player. Was a real driving force of the team. Scored so many goals. Another legend to wear that shirt. People say a club legend, and yeah, rightly so. He was a club legend. And then the number 7 shirt, despite Alexis still being on the books, with him not being there as he's on loan, it's vacant at the moment. It's been promised to a certain Jadon Sancho. We'll have to see whether he does justice to that shirt. We'll have to see whether he is going to don the number 7 and what he's capable of doing in it. Again, we've talked numerous times on this podcast about Jadon Sancho. It's a deal that I hope goes through, and it is it's something I'm interested in seeing how he performs in that number 7 shirt if that deal does go through, because I think he's made for that number 7 shirt. Hopefully, like those mentioned just then, hopefully he can be a talisman like those, and not like a Angel Di Maria, who we didn't even mention as being a bad number 7. Hopefully he doesn't turn out like him. Hopefully he does arrive and he turns out like a Cantona or a Beckham or a Ronaldo in that number 7 shirt. But pretty much wrap episode 7 up there after all the 7s, the number 7s. So wherever you listen to this podcast, if you could hit subscribe, leave us a review, really helps us out, helps whatever podcast provider know that we're not just some crazy people making a random podcast. We are listened to. You can find us on iTunes, on Spotify. You can find us on rantsforreddevil.com, where you can also find other United-related articles and news. Podcasts are also available on YouTube just search for Rants of a Red Devil. Links will be in the description below. Other than that, you can find us on Twitter at RantDevil, where we keep up to date with United news. Try to get it out as it breaks. And until episode 8, when hopefully there's a little bit more to talk about. We'll see you soon. Stay safe.